This week, the United States indicted the man who once ruled Cuba, Raúl Castro, indicting him for murder. To understand why this moment matters, first I want to take you back 30 years. It's February 24th, 1996. Cuban MiGs have just shot down 2 unarmed planes over international waters in the Florida Straits. 4 men are dead. And 48 hours later, I am on a plane to Havana undercover. Armed with a small home video camera and a tourist cover story, my cameraman and I spent 4 days on the ground in Havana. It was a city gripped by fear. Castro informants on every corner. On the streets, Cubans who could only whisper their grief.
Be careful. At any moment, this whole place could blow. People are so upset, but we're all afraid to talk right now.
The Cuban government tried to stop this broadcast from ever airing. They failed. And now, 30 years later, it appears that Raúl Castro has as well.
We are announcing an indictment charging Raúl Castro and several others with conspiracy to kill U.S. nationals.
Wednesday in Miami, Acting Attorney General Todd Blanche announced an indictment and arrest warrant for Castro, handing down 4 counts of murder, conspiracy to kill U.S. nationals, and destruction of aircraft. Castro and 5 others, including the pilots who fired the missiles, now face federal charges.
We are happy to have this justice come into reality.
Outside the Freedom Tower and at Versailles Restaurant in Little Havana, tears, chants, and a hope 30 years in the making. And this story is personal in the region. Nearly 179,000 Cubans call Hillsborough, Pinellas, Pasco, and Polk counties home. It is the second largest Cuban community in the nation outside Miami-Dade. Tampa's Cuban roots run from the cigar workers of Ybor City to the families who fled the revolution and never stopped watching the Straits. For them, and for the families of Carlos Costa, Armando Alejandre, Mario de la Peña, and Pablo Morales, today may not be just a legal development. It seems like 30 years of waiting finally answered. I covered this story at its beginning in my late 20s. I was working at the CBS station in South Florida, and our panel today is here to help us understand what it means now and what comes next. Tom, I'd like to start by asking you about the feelings within the Cuban community.
Well, first of all, it was joy. Second of all, I think it was sadness. Sadness that we had to wait 30 years for this to happen. We did some coverage at the radio station the other day, and we had 2 responses. One from a regional rival from Cuba, and then from my wife, who's been here for quite a number of years. And they both coincided in having tears in their eyes, because they realized that after all these many years, there's going to be some justice. Now, whether that's going to happen or not, we'll see. But definitely, one of the things that they expressed was the songs that they would play when this happened. One was Willie Chirino, El Día Ya Viene Llegando.
That's right.
And
the
the other
is
one,
coming for
yes,
change.
and the other one was the regional rival was Carlos Varela, Una Foto de Familia.
A photo of family.
It's interesting to say that music came to mind during this important event.
Well, Ray, for you all at Creative Loafing Tampa Bay, you're going to cover the story, of course. The Cuban community is very big here in Tampa Bay, but there is diversity of thought even within the Cuban community. How do you tackle that?
Sure, I mean, and I'll be the first to admit that I think Creative Loafing used to do a very good job of covering Cuba. We're on top of that. We've kind of fallen short on that, but I also think we're not alone in that. I can't understand the Spanish broadcast yet, so I wasn't listening, but I certainly think that in most of the English-speaking media, we've failed to cover these 179,000 Cubans in the Bay Area the way they should be. We treat them as a monolithic political bloc, when it's a diverse view of views in that community. We love Cuban food, we love Cuban cigars, Miami will take offense to this, but a lot of people in Tampa feel closer to Cuba than anywhere else in the U.S., right? But yet we talk about them from a very singular point of view, and we don't talk about enough of those dissenting voices and some of that diversity. No one's trying to excuse the repressive nature of the Cuban regime and the surveillance state that it is, but I think we can do better in treating the Cuban population in a more diverse way and presenting them as such.
Katie, where do we go from here in terms of the media and fact-checking, and explain that?
It's a really bold move that the administration has undertaken, and the consequences are unknown. So I can't tell you that. And it's incredible to see you report on this story, having been there at the beginning. I'm really enjoying that. But I think what we're seeing is that familiar information vacuum online, where the public is eager to know where this story is going to go from here. Will Castro surrender? Will the U.S. Be forceful militarily? Are we going to see a repeat of what happened in Venezuela with Maduro? How is it going to play out? But in the vacuum, you're seeing a lot of false narratives emerge online, a lot of confusion, a lot of that familiar kind of AI slop, or just made up narratives about a military invasion already underway, or he's already surrendered. So you just have to be really patient and really careful as a viewer, as a citizen, as a stakeholder, and see. And then pay close attention to what officials are saying. That's what organizations like PolitiFact will be doing, is seeing whether what they're saying about the situation really matches the reality.